All right, welcome back. It's the Jack and Jared podcast. I'm Jeremy. That's Jack. It was
Hey
my birth.
guys.
It was my birthday yesterday. It was Jack's birthday last week. We're getting older. We're getting better at podcasting. Things are improving. For my birthday, I decided to try and challenge myself this weekend. I tried to run 100 miles, not straight, but over the weekend. I failed. I definitely didn't do too badly. I feel like I was there. My legs are good. I'm not sore. I feel like I could still run if I really needed to yesterday, today. Um, I set out on Friday. I ran 25 miles on Friday. The goal was to kind of do like 25 Friday, 50 Saturday, 25 Sunday. That was like the loose goal. I was going to kind of see how it went. 25 Friday went great. Saturday, I only did about 30. And then there was like a shitload. Is this a PG-13 podcast? There's a shitload of ice, and you literally couldn't run. It was impossible to run. I like kept on falling. You were like, it was basically slower than a walking pace. And that kind of like ruined it. I don't know if I would have made it anyway, but I definitely would have gotten a lot further. But I kind of like couldn't do anything by the evening on Saturday. I ended up hitting 66 miles total by when I was finished on Sunday. Sunday, I definitely could have put another 10 to 15 in. I feel like once I lost the mission, and then like the weather still wasn't great, but you could kind of run a little bit. I don't know. I kind of like just lost it. So I decided though I'm definitely going to try again, probably in about 2 months when I'm done with my semester. When I have like a couple more days and I can really plan like a 3 days that I don't have any engagements, that the weather's nice, I'm gonna try it again. So, question is, why did I do this? What's the point in doing something like that? You can see behind me my background. I have this is the Atlanta Marathon actually, which I ran for the first time last year, March 1st. It was basically like right before coronavirus really shut everything down. One of the best experiences in my life. I love running with people. There's just something about it. I love that like everyone cheers each other on. It's one of the few things I think I've ever experienced where like you just cheer everyone on and it's just all positivity and people just want people to succeed. Something I really, really, really like is like usually the people who are having the hardest time get cheered on the most. So usually the person who's has a cramp and is limping and like can barely walk is the person that everyone is cheering on and going like, you got this, you got this. And then those people cheering and saying, you got this, gets that person to keep on going. And they end up like going further than they would have before. And I don't know, I think that's beautiful. And I feel like that type of energy really should translate um, to everyday life. Like, why aren't the people who struggle the most with life, who have difficulty like finding jobs or who have difficulty getting up every day or whatever? A lot of that time in real life, those people are left behind. But in a marathon, those people are cheered on the most. And I just think that's like something interesting to note, a little off topic. But I think marathon was awesome. It like kind of kept me motivated. It's a cool challenge. And once you finish it, you feel really accomplished. And I kind of wanted to replicate that. Ideally, a lot of time you do it with like an event to win a medal. I kind of did it just for myself, really to see what I could do and what I was capable of. So, Jack, what do you think of that?
Yeah.
Have you had anything that you've challenged yourself with?
Yeah. So I think it's just an interesting conversation as a whole about why some people do decide to challenge themselves, especially like physically like that. Um, I did on the opposite side because of a bet the past summer. Uh, I was bet that I could not run a sub 6 minute mile. And like really the runs I'd go on would be a couple miles every now and then on the weekend. So I hadn't actually tried to run a time miles since like undergrad, so like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and I couldn't run it then. But I took the challenge. It was a good amount of money, and I thought I could do it, and I ended up doing it. And there's just a lot, it just makes you think when you actually put yourself out there, at least from my experiences, that we don't necessarily challenge ourselves like that much, especially when it comes to like physical things. Like you age out of school and maybe you play in like college and things like that. But like in terms of physical challenges, there's no, organization or like natural thing where like in schools you'll have, time mile or your sports competitions or just like things going on like weekends that are maybe more athletic based, or at least what my friends and I did. But there's Spartan races, there's like long runs like this. Like one of my friends really wants us to do, and we're gonna do this David Goggins 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours challenge in like 2-3 weeks. And I'm excited to do it. It's gonna hurt, but I think I can do it. And so that's
Why
what
are you excited to do it? What excites you about it?
I it would just like it's a lot of running, and I'm not a serious long distance runner, but I'm confident that like maybe I'm gonna go at like a real snail's pace for some of this. And I've been like thinking about it, but like I think I can do it. Like I think every 4 hours I could do like a really slow jog first mile, like maybe like 12-minute mile pace, and just slowly like crank it up like a little bit. So I'm doing like maybe a 9-minute like fourth mile or something like that, like tops. But like if I do it that slow, like I think I can do it. But like I don't know. And so that's like the excitement, is that like I
Well,
think that
I can say you definitely can do it.
yeah, it's a matter of will I.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you
Um
run a 6-minute mile. I mean, you're definitely
like
you
completely different types of being in shape.
yeah,
Like
very
running a
true.
6-minute mile, sub 6-minute mile, and running a marathon. Like I'd be the first person to tell you that like my knees and back will just go out after like 5-6 miles. Like I've run 5 or 6 before, and the
Yeah.
last half mile I am in pain. So I'm
And
really hoping that's not going to be the case.
conversely, like I can't run a 6-minute mile right now. I can probably run about a 6:45, 7-minute mile. If I trained for maybe 3 months, 4 months, I could probably get right around six. I don't know if I'd break six. I'd be probably in the 6:10 range. But you're right. That's like kind of a different thing. And like you kind of have to have a certain physical ability to be able to do that. Like not everyone can really do that.
Yeah, like you said you read 30 miles on Saturday, and to me that's like frightening. It's like, oh my God, that's so many miles. I
yeah,
I don't think I could do that.
I think you could though too. At the same time, like I think a lot. I don't know. I think a lot of people don't run at all, and then they just say, not saying you at all, but a lot of people don't run. And then yeah, running like 10 miles is impossible if you don't run. But if people start running every day, like I find it crazy that people don't get 10,000 steps in a day. Um, and yeah, if you're not stepping 10,000 steps in a day, you're probably not going to run like endurance. But if you like just work at it, I think like the average person can definitely run a marathon without a doubt. It's just the average person doesn't really want to.
Yeah, so what lessons do you learn, or why do you push yourself to do these like 100 miles in a weekend? Like what are you getting out of it besides like physical shape?
Just to see if I can kind of like you said about the Goggins is like when you think you can, you kind of want to push yourself to the limit and see if you can do it. So like 100 miles sounds like a lot, but the more I ran, the more I'm like, if I break it up into chunks and I do this, and I rest and I recover and whatever, I think I can do it. And now
So
I only hit 65, but like I know I'm at the point where I can do it. I just need to
so
tweak a couple things.
So is there a conscious effort that you've made to start challenging yourself? And if so, like what led you to start putting on your calendar that you're going to be, making these pushes?
So I guess I have, but I haven't like done it in a systematic way. Last year or about 2 years ago, I basically, when I quit drinking, I had a big revelation of that I was just content. And when I was content with everything, things started kind of like going down, basically. And I kind of said to myself, like, that I always want to push myself because, like, I kind of see people as either going up or going down. So if you're content, you're kind of going to be going down. And I kind of like, when that all happened, promised myself that I want to just keep on getting better and better and never being content. So, like, my races for running have kind of represented that. I started with like a 5 mile race, went up to a 10 mile race, went up to an 18 mile race, went up to a 26 mile race. And then last year I signed up for Everesting, which is basically climbing a mountain over and over and over until you do the equivalent altitude of Everesting. That got canceled, but I still did it by myself in Wyoming. And like, we're actually going to have the event this year now, so I'm a little bit prepped. But a little motto, some people might think it's corny, but I kind of like it, that I told myself was like every time I was practicing and running or whatever, I would say, keep growing. And basically, like, one, keep going. Don't get tired, or like if you get tired, doesn't mean stop. Like, you can slow down, but keep going. And at the same time, keep growing. Where like always get better and better, always keep improving, because like, and just never be content. And that's kind of what's led me to it.
So, when you're running those miles and you're pushing yourself, because things that you're talking about there's a lot of intensity to them, but it's more the longevity of the activity that's really, the impressive part of it. So during those times where you're really, pushing yourself over sustained periods of time, is that the mantra that you tell yourself, or how do you get through the tough moments where your body and your mind is telling you to quit?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do tell myself, just keep going, keep growing. One of my like inspirations and people I look up to is Mike Posner. He went across America 2 years ago, and his motto was keep going. So I kind of like changed his keep going to keep growing. But yeah, so I listen to Mike Posner. A lot of his songs are like inspirational, and basically every time I get tired, is I kind of like say, if just keep on taking a couple more steps, and eventually that like tiredness in your body will go away and you'll keep going. So as long as you can keep it going while you're tired, eventually it kind of subsides and then you'll feel good again. And it usually works.
Do you find that for lack of better words, the pain that you can deal with better, is that more repetition oriented? I don't want to call it like duller, but do you think you're better at overcoming like the miles and countless minutes and hours on end, like running or pushing yourself, rather than like high intensity, your heart rate is jacked, you're doing burpees or whatever? Like, have you reflected on, like, which type of intensity you're more able to overcome, and any idea why?
Yeah, I definitely see myself more as like an endurance type of athlete. I'm not so sure why. I feel like I don't have a good tolerance for pain, but I think I don't like quitting. And if I tell myself I'm doing something, a lot of the time, like, I can just force myself to do it. I really did not want to stop. Um, I didn't want to have to tell you on the Tuesday following that I didn't make it 100 miles. I hate doing stuff like that. And like, because I hate that so much, I could have forced myself to do it. Like, I definitely could have. I would have been in pain. I would have taken a lot longer. But when I tell myself I'm gonna do something like that, like I do it. There's just there's no stopping. I think a big thing that like another mentor, a person I look up to, has said is you make it a non-negotiable and you don't giving up a voice. If you don't tell yourself I'm not going to be able to do this, you're going to be able to do it. And as long as you keep on saying I'm good, I'm good, I'm going to be able to do it, that has a lot of power. If the first hour you're like, this is going to blow, I'm not going to make this, you're probably not going to make it. When you give that a voice and you give it power to say like, hey, I might not complete this, you're 100% not as likely to complete it. And I've realized
Yeah.
that for sure.
So something you said that's like interesting is you basically talked about acknowledging that you're gonna have those moments and having that game plan where you get to the point where however many miles or time wise like you're in, being like, okay, like I know that the voice in me is going to tell me to quit. This is how I'm going to deal with it. And something that I remember dealing with on a more work related note was really early on when I started getting into visualization. One of the things that started helping me was actually visualizing the times where it was going to be hard for me in the day to get better. So like
Mm-hmm.
I tend to do my best work in the morning. And I had a a few days in a row or just consistently 1 or 2 days a week where the 2 3 hours after like lunch were just really low periods where I wasn't productive, and then I catch my second win like later on, like I would have a good like 5 p.m. onwards. But one of the things that actually helped me with like visualization was like I started visualizing when I would get like, for lack of better words, what my friends and I would call like the itis. Like you have like the lunch, you get like that wave of like tiredness comes over you and whatever. And I actually started like visualizing myself getting that feeling, taking a few breaths, and like just like overcoming it. And that was actually like pretty powerful to use visualization for like something small like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and what I'm trying to get at is, I think there's just so many things that like I do now where when I'm doing things well, I'm also recognizing that like it's going to be challenging and not discounting those challenges, but like having the confidence of like, okay, here's my game plan for overcoming them. That way I'm not like naive and like the first sign of like struggle, I'll give up. Like it's eyes wide open. This is how I overcome the tough times, because the easy times are going to take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely agree with that. And I like that you mentioned visualization because when I didn't do too much prep for this. I kind of like just been running a lot. But when I did some research of like how to run 100 miles, one of the first things I read was if you can see yourself doing it, um, that's the first like check mark kind of. And I kind of saw myself running the 100 miles and like that's really one of the big things that told me I could do it. It's not like I ran 20 miles in a weekend in this time where I could do this, this, and this. Is kind of like, can you visualize yourself doing it? And that's like one of the biggest factors if you'll be able to do it or not. So I definitely think visualization is an important skill and tool to use. Um,
Yeah.
do you have any big accomplishments that you're working towards? Why or why not?
Well, the recent thing is the David Goggins, I think it's Friday, March 5th, starting at 11 p.m. Eastern. Because I guess he's on the West Coast, so it's 8 p.m. for him, which I guess is nicer. But the 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. I'm gonna fly
Yeah.
back to Florida. I have a friend that I'm gonna do it with. I haven't talked to him yet about strategy. So I hope he's gonna be on board with my let's ease our way into these 48 hours. Um, but that's the big thing right now. But COVID's been so interesting where I was living in Mexico and I was finally starting to become comfortable down there. And I was getting to the point where I was starting to like plan like bigger things. Like there was like a volcano that I wanted to hike and things like that. And I was feeling comfortable with my Spanish that like I could kind of go out in the world and I would be fine
Mhm.
being solo for the most part. But like, since COVID, I think everything's kind of been on pause. Like, I don't know if there's like Spartan races and stuff still going on like that. Like that's like a classic example of like something that you can like put on the calendar and challenge yourself. But I think like now I'm just kind of at the point where it's like I have to do stuff like this. Like the David Goggins thing, my instant reaction was like, you can't do this. But now it's like, oh, it's been such a long time to like actually have something to like quote look forward to that I really just like want to jump at the opportunity. So that's the big thing on my calendar. And like to be honest, it scares the shit out of me. But at the same time, it's like, okay, like I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna tell people about it because if I tell people about it, then like I definitely can't like wimp out and stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll see. But like I want to get back into the habit of planning every 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. Like one, I don't want to call it milestone moment, but like just something where it's like I have something to look forward to like challenge myself or expose myself to something new and like just, help grow.
Does it have to be something physical or something like that most people can't do, or can it be just something that's um, so different?
I
Like, what about like bungee jumping? Would that mark the same check marks or?
uh yes and no. Like it wouldn't the same idea. Like running 48 miles in a weekend is in my mind, a completely different feat than bungee jumping. I've gone skydiving and I've done like some stuff like that, and I got some stories to tell, but
Mhm.
it's different. Like
Yeah.
if you're gonna do those types of things, those are the types of things, in my opinion, you really want to do with like people that are special to you, whether it's a special person or a group of people, like because those are the stories like you tell later down the road. It's like, oh my God, you remember when we went skydiving and you were the first one out of the plane and blah 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 blah. The stories you tell. So that's the other thing is like making sure you're doing it in a way where if you go bungee jumping, it's not just like okay, that's it. Like you do it with like people that are going to add chapters to your life by like being a part of it and like sharing those special moments.
Hmm. No, definitely. Um, do you think? Well, basically, I'll actually give my opinion. I don't feel like enough people do challenges like this or push themselves. Do you have any hypothesis of why you think that is? Do you think people just like being comfortable or?
So, people obviously like being comfortable. I like being comfortable. I think, it's very few people are uncomfortable in comfortableness. But uh, I think there's a certain level of premeditation that the older we get and the more we get tied down to things, or even when we're younger, it can be like hard to overcome. Like if you're in a relationship with someone and you're really serious about your job and you're starting a family, you either have a kid or something like that, like you can't be selfish with like your time. Like you are like planning and like there's so many things going on that it's so easy to put your head down and then come up for air on like a Saturday night and then enjoy who you're with and then put your head down again to start grinding. That I think some of it is literally just taking the time to think like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months, 6 months apart, like plan that trip, plan that event, plan that thing. And I don't really have a good hypothesis why, besides, there's a difference between taking care of things that are urgent versus important. And like the important things can often not be urgent, but and when like you're just working really hard on yourself or your relationships or something like that, it can be really easy to realize that like a year or 2 years or a few years have gone by and like you haven't done anything outside that profession oriented, hanging out with friends type atmosphere. So I think some of it's just like premeditation. Like are you actually looking at the calendar and being like, what do I want to accomplish this year? Where do I want to go? What do I want to see? What do I, what new experiences do I want to have had?
Mm. Do you see yourself already setting something up for after the Goggins 48, or is that too much on the plate so far? You'll wait till that's till you do that.
So some of this is like just weather. Like David Goggins would call me like, a little bitch, but like I don't want to run in like black ice. Like I went
Yeah.
sledding a month and a half ago and like an idiot went off a jump and like dislocated a finger on my hand. Like I'm getting old. Like it's been like 8 weeks and this finger is not 100% yet.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt myself too bad. So
Yeah.
part of it is like with this physical stuff is like one of the things I want to do this summer is I want to run a sub 5 minute 30-second mile because I did 5:55 last summer. Can I cut another 25 seconds off for 26 seconds? I don't know. Like it doesn't seem that difficult. It's about 6 seconds less per quarter mile. Like I think I can do that.
Yeah.
So like I want to do that, but like I'm also not too manly or whatever, proud to like admit that like the conditions scare me a bit. Like I'm not running on ice.
Yeah. Have you read his book or heard like his story at all?
Yeah, I've actually listened to his audiobook twice now, and I'll listen
Epic,
to like
right?
interviews and stuff he does. Yeah, it's one of those stories that you hear and you're like, damn, like I think I thought I had problems or I had issues. Like this is
Yeah.
someone who went through SEALs basic training multiple times with a hole in his heart.
And broken like a broken ankle, and he
Yeah,
won.
broken legs and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just a great story of like willpower. And we talked about this quote a while ago, whether you think you can or you cannot, like you're probably right. And like David Goggins just epitomizes that. He tells himself he can, and therefore he pushes himself to things that us, mere mortals are like, that's incredible. But at the end of the day, like a lot of us, that are if people spend the time to make sure that their bodies are in decent shape, like we can push ourselves to like crazy limits, like especially like marathon stuff. Like how humans evolved as like hunter gatherers, like how we were able to hunt animals. Do you know some of this backstory?
Let's hear it.
So humans aren't the fastest, and the way we would really hunt, even when we had sticks and spears and stuff to throw, was that we would kind of jog after an animal, and then it would run away from us. And then we would jog after it because humans have really good endurance, so we can't catch it on the spot, but the animal would flee, and then as it settled down, we would catch up to it again, and we would keep causing this animal to exert its energy to the point where it was so tired it couldn't move, it couldn't outrun us, and then we would just come up and stab it. So like the ultimate like just annoying hunter. Like we're not gonna like overpower you, we're not gonna like run you down, we're just literally not gonna leave you alone until you don't have enough energy. And I only bring this up is because like that was a large part of our evolution, the hunter gatherer part, and that's what a large population had to do. They had to just be able to not get tired so that they could chase down this animal to feed their their tribe. And it's like kind of cool to like dip into that. I can run 20, 30, 40 miles a day, or 40s are kind of crazy, but ancestral animal self.
Yeah. No, I like that. That reminded me of like something I probably want to share for what I learned this week, or something shared to learn this week, which I've
let's
learned
get
this
into
week.
that.
Cool. So that just reminded me with like the hunter gatherers. I this is true. This is like, there's a little bit of cuteness behind this too, just to like show the story a little bit better. But we used to be hunter gatherers, and when we were hunter gatherers, basically, if you got injured back in those times, you would die, because like, let's say you broke your ankle, you're not going to be able to get food, and you're going to die. So what I really love is like, how do we know when civilization really started? is when we started finding bones of humans, or Homo sapiens and Homo and Neanderthals,
Yeah.
and erectus and all that, is basically when they started finding bones that were healed, because healed bones meant that there was actually civilization, there was like a society that when someone got hurt, other people took care of them, brought them food, helped them until they healed, and then they could keep on going. Until then, there weren't any healed bones. And what I kind of like from that, a little tidbit that I think people should really listen to and try and embody more these days, is like civilization only works when people are being nice and looking out for others, not just for themselves. And I think part of what's maybe messing up society and civilization these days is because there's so much selfishness and me, and I need the money, or I need the food, or I need whatever, and everything's out of control. And we really need to, I think, bring it back to the basics of like when we help each other, that's when civilization actually started. Maybe that's what's gonna make civilization continue or improve.
Interesting. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there. Um, I guess I'll go. This isn't something I can really. Well, I'm just gonna get right into it. I learned about Wim Hof breathing exercises maybe just past a week ago, and I've been doing that pretty regularly. And so it's Wim Hof, WIM space HOF. You can look it up on YouTube, like beginner, like 10-minute breathing. And I was breathing was something that, like visualization and vision boards and affirmations, was something that breathing exercises was something that successful people, I would consistently see successful people maybe somewhere in an interview or just like mention as like part of their routine, and saying that I had benefits from it for whatever reasons. And so I was trying to do some breathing exercises and like really didn't get anything from it. It's just like a different type of like, concentrated exercise, like a meditation, mindfulness type thing. But I started doing Wim Hof, and that, like, for lack of better words, that shit is like fucking spiritual. Like
Yeah.
you do a 10-minute breathing, a Wim Hof exercise with like 3 rounds with 3 breath holds, and like you are you are blasting off. So if anyone's listening to this, Wim Hof, WIM space HOF Hof, go try this. It is out of this world that like just some simple breathing things can completely change the way you feel and like your centeredness. Give it a try. So that's my thing that I learned, kind of, sort of, whatever.
I'm obsessed with Wim Hof. Actually, I got introduced about like a year and a half ago. And basically something you mentioned earlier completely reminded me of it. You said like a lot of people don't like being uncomfortable. So I actually, because of Wim Hof, like to embrace the uncomfortable. That's what he always says. Because if you can embrace the uncomfortable, then you're basically like capable of anything. So you were talking about his breathing exercises. Wim Hof has 3 pillars. There's the breathing exercise, there's the ice plunge, and then there's like just the mind. So the breathing exercise is definitely the best of the 3, but the ice plunge is also part of it. And it's all about like just embracing the uncomfortable. And like when you force yourself to go into an ice chamber every day or whatever, and that's like and you're doing it willingly, it makes it, you're that much more capable of dealing with anything that comes to you, because you're just like, you already dealt with going in negative degrees. So
yeah, cold therapy is serious.
And we definitely I want to talk more about that definitely in the future, because I love him. He's I think he's going to get bigger and bigger this year. Dream would be Wim Hof getting on the podcast. That's the goal for the end of the year. We're going to make it happen. But
yeah, put on the vision board.
Nice talking to you, Jack. Thanks as always. It was I think a great conversation. I learned a lot. Excited to talk to you next week. Thank you everyone for listening. Please, like Jack mentioned last week, like, subscribe, and definitely comment. Comment on what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear about. Anything we want feedback would be great. Thank you. Have a great week, guys.
Peace out.